the metaphor once that our lives are often like a tapestry. So what you see on the front of a tapestry is this image that is very much intentionally designed and is very beautiful, like the big picture, right, of how things worked out in the end or what our lives look like. But if you flip the tapestry over, a real one at least, they're full of knots and tangles and all of it's so messy. And that's just the reality of our real lives. So yes, my career has been sort of 3 chapters, beginning this 3rd chapter now of leading the business that I have the privilege to lead. But what took place behind the scenes, what took place in my personal life alongside that journey was really messy, right? Like really imperfect, really full of struggles.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? A podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. We're doing this right, Colleen?
I don't know, man.
Oh, God. Colleen and I are a hot mess today, ladies and gentlemen. Probably mostly ladies, except the 3 gentlemen.
We have a 3rd gentleman. Did I tell you? I didn't tell you guys yet. We have one of my friends from college, Jason, told me that he listens. So awesome. Yay for Jay. And now maybe, Kristen, maybe your husband will listen.
Yeah, so we'll get a 4th one on board.
Yeah, you guys. So we have a special guest, Kristen Hitt, today. And she is a CEO, mom, and wife. Organic was founded 30 years ago as the first digital advertising agency. Today, it is a performance brand agency that delivers brand creative excellence with precision marketing solutions. She leads a kick-ass team that works across the U.S. with offices in New York City, Cincinnati, and LA. Some things she's passionate about right now, I'm loving this: silencing the inner critic, outpacing imposter syndrome, taking care of herself through the most stressful professional season. And I just am so excited. I think she's passionate about Colleen, and I think Colleen's passionate about her.
So true.
What you guys, if you're only listening, what you can't see is me just like smiling so big and throwing my hands in the air. So the other bio that everyone needs to know is that Kristen and I have been friends since we were 18 years old. And we lived on the same dorm floor our freshman year of college. And then we became sorority sisters as well. So our lives are very intertwined for a very long time. And I can't wait for you guys to hear about Kristen's story because I have been cheering her for years, watching her just kick ass and succeed and blossom and grow as a woman. And it's incredible. So, Kristen, hi. Welcome. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm doing my best to not tear up as I think about all the seasons of our friendship and all the things that we've cheered each other on from afar. I've been a huge fan of your podcast. So longtime listener, first time guest, very excited. I can't wait to be a part of the conversation and have just felt at home with you all. And Cheryl, I know I'm just meeting you for the first time here, but it feels like I know you too based on so many of the stories that you share. And I just become a really huge fan. So thanks for the opportunity to be with you guys today.
Oh my God. It's like a love fest. And other small fun fact, Kristen and I have actually run a half marathon together.
My first half marathon. You ran before I did.
Yeah.
You ran a full marathon, I think, before we ran a half marathon together. But yeah, that was super special.
Yeah, that was amazing. Okay,
so I learned something new about Colleen today.
Yeah, I have run a full marathon. I ran one in 2010, and then I have run, I think, 4 or 5 half marathons.
I think my favorite story from Colleen's I think it was your first marathon, wasn't it? That David like jumped out of a moving vehicle and ran with you, like in his street clothes, just to help you get through a hard spot. I think that's one of the most indicative story of your relationship and his heart towards you, and I love it so much.
It was. I will tell the story maybe on social, but it is an amazing story. I've actually written it out to tell it on social, and it starts out like how the time David dropped his pants in the middle of Santa Monica to save me because he had on like cargo shorts because like chill out, it was 2010. And then he had basketball shorts underneath. And it was literally mile 22 and I had run 22 miles and then I hit the wall and this giant man jumped over the barricades and came to save me and ran the last, 4.2 miles with me. It's an incredible
Amazing.
story, but
I
not
am
while we're
much
here.
too emotional today to be hearing these kinds of things.
I know. It's a lovely, amazing story. But okay, so Kristen, we went to college together, and then here's one thing that I thought should have told me a lot. Well, I knew Kristen, but Kristen was one of the first women in our sorority to get like a really good job out of college right away. And at the time, we thought a really good salary. You were
Oh
making
my
like,
gosh, yeah.
remember, you were like, I'm going to make like over $50,000. And this was 2005.
5. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right
I
out of
was a
college,
millionaire is
you
what
were
it
a
felt like.
millionaire.
And then I real quick got married and had a baby and realized that was $0. That was $0 to budget and build a family on.
Take us through kind of you're now, are you officially now the CEO, or is that still
I
like in
am.
process? Okay.
Yeah, no, I am. I don't even know where to start, Colleen. I think, my career has taken a massive turn in the past year and a half,
Yeah.
which has been a really exciting journey. I am CEO of an advertising agency. As Cheryl mentioned, it was the very first digital agency. We're credited with making some of the very first digital banner ads, which was just a cool fun fact for like where we started and I think is at the center of how we do work now. More than the work that we do, though, is the story behind the scenes of where we are and how we got to where we are today. And so I, over the past year, have led a merger. I've led through 3 staff reductions. I've acquired new business. I've lost business, and all the while trying to maintain my own sense of integrity to who I am and leadership in the face of so much chaos and crisis and change. And so it's been a really trying journey for me, which is why, when Cheryl asked about what I was passionate about, thinking about like outpacing my inner critic and taking care of myself and those types of things, because I have truly been in what I can only characterize as the most difficult professional season of my entire career. It has demanded nearly all of me in a way that I never anticipated. And I've been so thrilled with like the new year was really symbolic for me. I feel a different sense of energy, a sense of buoyancy that I have not felt in a long time. And so I'm feeling a lot more hopeful. This is a really good time to have the conversation about life and how things really work versus if you had talked to me 3 months ago, you probably would have had a very different teary-eyed, tired version of me in this conversation.
But that's part of the whole journey, right? Like, I feel like Cheryl and I today both somehow are in the teary-eyed, sad version of growth, but that's part of growth, right? And here you are, like bright
Right.
and shiny, like you even look great on camera, and like here you are on the other side of it. But I want you to take us back even further. So, like, your
Sure.
first job was at P&G, right?
Consumer packaged goods. Yeah, I went to Procter and Gamble, which is based in Cincinnati, and I was in market research. I was there for almost 10 years, and it was an amazing experience. P&G is a great place to work, just tons of training and global travel and learning how marketing and brand building works with some of the best and finest marketers in the world. P&G is an amazing place for like just training and growth, and is very much a space where it's something that's kind of been indicative of my whole career, where you just have excellent coaching and tons of feedback, lots of candor, very direct, like, here's what worked well. Here are the 17 things that you could do differently. And so it felt like from the very beginning being like thrust out of my comfort zone. And I think that's been a real theme throughout most of my career, is accepting challenges that have pushed me to maximize like what's possible with my own personal potential. But it's made me a bit of a self-proclaimed expert in what does it mean to like truly be uncomfortable and how do you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And how do you step up and into things anyway, which is a bit of an evolving confidence for me in this most recent season, because suddenly I'm in this role that I've been working for, dreaming about, hoping to have for most of my career. And funny enough, I've never felt as insecure, as unsure, and uncertain, because suddenly at this new altitude, it's so clear to me how much I don't know, which is really uncomfortable. And so that's kind of been the hallmark of my career, whether that was like spending the time that I spent at P&G, and I got to travel all over the world, or in the early digital and e-commerce days, teaching people how to use digital to solve their business problems, and got to partner with Facebook and Google and doing ad effectiveness studies on Facebook in the early days, just really interesting, changing type of stuff. from there, I made a jump to the advertising world, which was another thing that I didn't totally even know what I was signing up for, if I'm honest. I met with my predecessor CEO over coffee like 11 years ago. I was pregnant with my daughter Amelia at the time. And he was trying to convince me that I should come to his agency to start strategic planning. And I'm not kidding. I left his agency the coffee meeting with him, and I Googled, what is agency strategic planning? Like, I had a feeling I knew kind of what it was, but I wasn't exactly sure. And then I was reading some of the descriptions. I'm like, all right, I could totally figure that out. I'll go do that. Right. And so I spent 10 years at that agency, and then merged with another agency and kind of took leadership of that combined entity. So it's been a thrill to get to this point, but so many stories underpinning all of those details, of course.
Yeah, one of the things I want to just highlight that you are talking about and have said, and we've mentioned before, and I kind of characterize this as, I hate this idea of fearlessness, and you're using this same, or, like similar idea of like being uncomfortable or being afraid, but doing it regardless, right? Like those are some of the, when we talk to people who are successful like you, or we see people who are achieving or high achievers, it's not that they're not afraid. It's not that they don't doubt themselves. It's not that they aren't worried, sometimes they're not, but it's that they're willing to experience that uncomfortableness.
The other build I would add to that too is, it's not that they know the answer all the time either. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you're figuring out, and you're using your gut, you're taking in new data, you're reading things at night, that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't know how to lead a merger at all, right? Like, we were going to school, my operations team, and like going to school at night and reading, McKinsey and Deloitte articles about how not to F up a company in 5 easy steps. Like, that was sort of the level of which we were like, how do we quickly study and pivot and learn and grow? And so it's so easy when we look at people in social media or in LinkedIn or in their thought leadership pieces, and you get in your head and you're like, gosh, I don't say it that way, or I don't say it with that much polish, or I don't have the answer. I don't know exactly. I don't have an infographic that tells my philosophy in 4 easy steps. Like, I don't have any of those things figured out. And it's so easy to get in our own heads and think, well, other people must know something, or must have something, must possess something that I don't. And it's just not true. And people don't talk about it enough. There's a book that was really, someone used it as like in a coaching session with me and sharing it. It's a book called Flying Without a Net. And it's written by a Harvard Business School professor, Tom DeLonge, who's a delightful human. I've had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times. But the most important thing, I'm not even sure that I'm recommending the book. I mean, go buy it. It would help Tom DeLonge. I'm sure he'd be thrilled for you to buy it. But the bigger point is, the whole premise of the book basically is about the growth and how, when you grow, how it feels. And there's some real power in understanding that. If you think back to little things that we did, most of us as kids, we learned how to like ride a bike, for example. And if you think about when you first learned how to ride a bike, you did a lot of things you did a lot of the right things, but you did them really poorly.
Yeah.
So you got on the bike, you put your hands on the handlebars, you got your butt on the seat, you put your feet on the pedals, you start to move them, but inevitably you fall down, you scrape your knee, you cry, you can't get the bike to go straight. You're all over the place, right? But too often as adults, we forget that the same thing happens whenever we learn or have to experience or do something new. So there's this period of time before you get to mastery, before you get to like figuring something out, where you're doing all the right things, you're showing up to the right places, you're reading the right things, you're having the right conversations, but you're doing them badly. And there's not enough, conversation, enough openness, enough vulnerability to say like, yeah, that's okay. And in most cases, when you're ready for that kind of growth, like, your version of bad is usually like, for the most part, fine, right? But we don't give ourselves enough grace for that. We just think, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. I feel so wobbly. I feel like I'm going to fall down. I scrape my knee. I'm crying all the time. What's going on? Like, we forget that we're in this season that is temporary, where you're like learning how to do the right things better over time. And you start off doing them badly, but we don't talk enough about that in our society, and particularly amongst women, because the idea is just like, we should just figure it out, and it should just be growth on growth on growth and strength on strength on strength. And that's just not how life works. Like, it's far more varied than that.
Yeah, I'm bahing out loud as you're saying this, because it is like so painfully close to me right now, right? Where you're like, yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm doing everything right. Like, why isn't it just turning over? Or, but then like I look back and I'm like, bitch, chill. You just did a lot. Like, and there's a
A
lot
lot.
positive
And a bunch of stuff
going on.
really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in like the stories we tell to ourselves in that time period.
That book, The Gap and the Gain, where if
Mm.
you are always looking at like where you want to go and what's left to do, you're always going to feel defeated and bummed out. Where if you turn around and you see
Mm-hmm.
like how far you just came, like what a pat on the back that is.
Yeah.
Right. When
Yeah.
we're so critical of ourselves. Whereas I would look at Colleen and I would say, okay, well, how long have you been a realtor and a social influencer and all the things? Like, not very long. You're definitely in that season, right? Of like figuring it out. And I would look at you as an outsider and say like, oh my gosh, you're killing it. Your social media videos are so good, and everything you're posting and all your guides and all this stuff. Like, I want to move to Indianapolis. I don't even live nearby. I don't have a job there. Like, it just, you're like, you're doing it, right? But I can see that so clearly as your friend, but you don't see it. And to your
Right.
point, Cheryl, such a good one, that we don't look backwards enough and say like, I used to be there.
Yeah.
Or imagine if I had done this 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready, or whatever it is. We don't give
Yeah.
ourselves enough credit.
Yeah, we don't. And I think, for me, starting this business at the precipice of 40, right? Like I started this real estate journey, if you will, at 39, and here I am 41. Like, it's a lot harder and easier for me, right? Because I've also run
Mm-hmm.
businesses before, or and I have life experience and I can relate with people. Where if I was doing this at 25, that's a whole different ball game, right? And I don't know that I would have the exponential success that I've had if I was doing it at that age, because I didn't have all this other
Mm-hmm.
education experience, life experience, failure, growth, resilience that you
Mm-hmm.
have when you're, 40. You're almost there, Cheryl. You've got
Mm-hmm.
it. You've got it.
I'm just a young little baby
You
over
are.
here.
But
When you were getting your first job, I was barely getting into college.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
well, isn't that nice? Got some
But
skincare
Kristen,
recommendations you can start using in a couple years.
yeah, we both do skincare for you.
I need to
Um,
stop
Let us
washing
lead the way for you.
shampoo is what I'm hearing. That's the most advice that I keep getting. Stop washing my face with shampoo.
oh yeah,
Oh
don't do
yeah,
that.
that's a good start.
I
Um,
get heavy for that.
so I
Hundo,
want to
hundo peak.
talk about, and we all have this, right? Where I think the three of us, and Kristen, you very much so, are like, people will look at us just like you're talking about from the outside and wow, look at just this exponential, really beautiful career. And it is, right? But, we talked about before the show, like, that doesn't mean that everything is always going fabulously. And I think this is where we
Mm-hmm.
need to open the door, open the gate, right? To sharing our stories about like the hard shit that's happening
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know pretty intimately your story, but whatever you're willing to share with us as a larger group, we would love to have you kind of tell your story from behind the scenes of this amazingly achieving, beautiful CEO. Like, there's a lot that you did to
Yeah,
get.
there's a lot that happens behind the scenes, right? I had heard the metaphor once that our lives are often like a tapestry. So what you see on the front of a tapestry is this like photo, or this image that is very much intentionally designed and is very beautiful, like the big picture, right, of how things worked out in the end or what our lives look like. But if you flip the tapestry over, a real one at least, they're full of knots and tangles and all of
Mhm.
it's so messy, and that's just the reality of our real lives. So yes, my career has been sort of three chapters, beginning this third chapter now of leading the business that I have the privilege to lead. But what took place behind the scenes, what took place in my personal life alongside that journey, was really messy, right? Like, really imperfect, really full of struggles. From, if I think back to like early on, I had my first kid when I was 24. And so I felt like this constant stress and pressure and lack of decision making and clear vision for myself on like, do I really want to go hard after my career? Or I have this baby, this sweet, sweet girl who I, I want to like go to the pool and I want to read her things and I want to teach her things. And I didn't really have that space to be able to even make that that as a choice, right? It was sort of like I had to gear up real fast to like, got to take care of things, got to pay our mortgage, got to pay for our cars, got to pay for her really expensive formula because she had this ridiculously difficult ability to digest milk protein. Like it was just crazy stuff that took place early on that was like, okay, this is my path, I think, right? And in the meantime, I was traveling a ton. And so that balance of like trying to be like the kind of mom I want to be, which by the way is like CEO level aspirations for the quality of mom that I want to be, not like from a militant business standpoint, but just from like, I want to be present. I want to be passionate. I want my kids to know that I love them like crazy, maybe too much. I don't want to miss things. Like, so how do I keep these things? They're always in conflict with one another. I traveled a lot in the early years with when my girls were little, and it was hard, right? Then the next, challenge was when of course I had my second child. I changed careers shortly thereafter. My marriage ended. I went through a divorce, and that was incredibly difficult. It was a hard season to reconcile some of what I wanted my life to be, what I believed was possible, and the reality of what it was, and the willingness to be bold enough, brave enough, courageous enough to say, like, this isn't working, this isn't it, and I don't see how it can work. And working through that, of course, that's messy. Thankfully, on the flip side of that, my ex-husband and I have a great relationship. We co-parent well, like things are good from that standpoint. But that time period was truly one of the hardest seasons of my life, hardest seasons of my kids' life. And I'm still understanding the implications and consequences of it for my kids. And if you don't think that I carry that weight with me all the time, I'd be lying to you, right? Like it's with me all the time, how my decisions have impacted their lives, how my career has impacted their lives, like all those things just heavy. But the other, the next chapter, of course, is like meeting who's now my husband. And it's so gross, you guys, but he's truly my soulmate. Like I have never loved or been loved by an individual the way that we love each other. It's super disgusting. So I'm very sorry. Apologize in advance.
Amazing and wonderful and beautiful.
We have created something together that is really, really special. But I use the word created because where we started was really, really rocky, in the context of, my husband Troy has 2 children. I have 2 children. Putting everyone together, bringing everyone along that journey, believing, clinging to each other that like we could make something that could be special, not a replacement for either of their initial original families, but something that is unique and special and differentiated and precious on its own. But we had to work really hard in that season. And it was, my focus during that time period got like very singular. Like I was focused on our family. Like that was a season where I was not as focused on my job and my career, because it was like, we have to build these relationships. We have to build bridges. We have to build trust, and all that takes so much time. We need healing. Like, gosh, all that emotional work requires so much of you. And now, like where we are now is just so different. It's so different and so precious. And thank God right in time, because then I got catapulted into the hardest professional season of my career with leading this merger and all of the decisions associated with that. And I would not have had the bandwidth to do any of those other things at the same time, right? And so much of me has been required in this season. And my challenge in this season is like pulling back and balancing a little bit, figuring out like, how do I exercise? How do I stop eating ice cream every day of the week? How do I take care of myself? I call it the merger 15 that I've picked up recently. Like, it's just like, I'm out of balance, right? And so this next chapter for me is all about like pulling it back in, like getting back to some of the basics that I know are the things I need in order to like support myself and be successful in this next season.
It's so interesting to me that like no matter what, the 3 of us, we all live in different places, do different jobs. Well, Cheryl and I do the same job, but differently, different places. And when we talk to across the country all the time, the issues that we face are the same, right? Anybody who is high achieving, anybody who is striving for more, any woman who is a mom, you always feel like you're kicking ass and failing at the same time, right?
Always.
And we all use this word balance, which I think we all really know is bullshit. Doesn't really exist. But
it's like a blend, right?
A blend. There's a blend. Like my good friend Melissa Beck, who I don't know, maybe you met her, Kristen. She was my sister's best friend since she was 2. Anyway, she said to me one time, very high level CEO as well, there is no balance, and we've talked about this on the show. There is no balance, and I think about this, and this is the perfect example, right? You were kicking ass doing this merger. Yeah, maybe you weren't, knocking out the 5 a.m. CrossFit workout every morning. Maybe you weren't making the
Right.
shakes. Maybe you weren't doing all, but you were achieving. And so sometimes when we have to do that, we gotta something's gotta give,
Yeah,
right?
other things have to give. Right.
And
Right.
ideally, we don't want it to be our health, but listen, 15 pounds, who cares? Chill out.
Could
It's gonna be
be
fine.
worse.
Could be worse. Yeah.
That Super Bowl commercial, the Uber Eats commercial with Jennifer Aniston and Ross. Sorry, David Schwimmer. I can't remember your name. Where it's like, if you learn something new, you have to forget something. Or if you remember something, you have to forget something. It's that. Like, we're trading this
Yeah.
for that.
There's
Well,
only
it's
so
so
much
true. Whenever
capacity.
you add something, you lose something.
Yeah.
Like we have finite capability, finite time, right? So if we're not and it's up to us what we lose, right? It could be something like in my case, like where it was just a bit out of sorts, feel like just not even I wasn't conscious of it. It was unintentional. It wasn't purposeful loss of something. But then there are other moments where it's like, I'm going to stop going on social media at night because I want to gain this other thing, right? Like we can be conscious of it or passive in it, I guess is maybe the point. And I want to have less of the things that I'm just like passively losing. That would be
Yeah.
my only goal, right? Is like, if I'm losing something, that let it be my choice, not something that I'm just like ignoring or because I just don't have the energy to fix it.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about, especially David and I have been talking about like prioritizing. Like it's never we can't do this or we don't have time for this or X, Y, and Z. It's just what are we prioritizing at this moment? And I've been really trying to prioritize everything all at once, and it's impossible. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's been
Same.
really hard. And then you have the days where you're crying and FaceTiming Cheryl, and there's been like we were talking about earlier today, all the things that happen in people's lives, and like they're really hard, and you still have to keep going as far as your work goes, right?
Right.
And like
Right.
today, I got this email that we send our kids to a private school. It's very expensive. We get financial aid, and they didn't give it to us this year. And I was like, oh shit. Like I can't afford this. So now what? And it was really dramatic, and it felt really dramatic at the time. And I called Cheryl crying, and she's crying because she's like got other shit going on at her. Anyway, it was a glitch. They just forgot.
No.
It was a system glitch, right? But it was that moment where you were just like, everything is going wrong.
Or like, why isn't it easier than this? Or why
Why
does it
is
need to
this?
be hard? Or yeah.
I
Why
say
is
that
there
all
so
the
much
time.
friction? Why can't I just have exactly what I want and it'd be easy? But I'll tell you why. Because if those things were easy, everybody would have them and they wouldn't be special and they wouldn't be worth what they're worth. But fuck
Right.
Yeah,
you got.
but it was that thing where it
Right.
was like, I've been pushing, and you work so hard. And I know you both know this, right? Where one slight thing derails you. It's
Yes. And it's usually the smallest things. Like I lost my mind over one meeting that I had last week. 1/2 hour. I lost like 4 days of just feeling a little anxious, not sleeping super well. Why? The meeting went great. Was awesome.
yeah,
Totally fine in the scheme of things, but there's some things that I've built up in my head, and what I've realized, and what is probably true for everybody, is we make things mean what. There's a phrase that a coach had introduced it to me a long time ago, which is there's something that happened, and then there's what I made it mean. Right. And often when that what I made it mean space is so informed by, like, I don't know, my childhood trauma, my
yeah,
insecurities. What did I eat last night? Did I exercise? Have I had enough water? Am I tired? Like 3 other meetings that I've had, the feedback that I've been getting lately, or the lack of feedback I've been getting lately, or whatever. We map all of that stuff to what I make it mean. And we make things somehow much bigger, more negative, more explosive in our lives than they need to be. And reining that in is like incredibly difficult, right? It's a practice. It's like yoga. Like it's you don't just have it or not. It's a thing you have to cultivate and build over time. That like resiliency and looking at something and saying, what is this? And I have the power in this moment to look at it as something that's happening to me or something that's happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so even that, like what happened with the tuition this morning, it's like you in that moment, right? Like, but how do you arrest that moment and stop yourself long enough to say, like, there's like this the thing that's happening and here's how I can choose. And that's the thing that I've gotten so passionate about in the past like 6 months, because so many things that have been popping up like a whack-a-mole game at a carnival, and it's like, how do I react to each one of those things is really important, particularly when there's like 18 people watching you at the time, or your family, or whatever, right? Or even just for our own sense of peace and well-being. It's like, how I react to this. Am I going to give away all of my confidence because of this one interaction? Am I going to lose all of my peace of mind because of this one thing? And that practicing getting out of that has been really, really difficult, but incredibly life-giving. Like what little wins I've been able to achieve in the past couple of months as a result of that.
It's amazing.
I am having a particularly challenging time because I just lost my childcare. We've always had au pairs, and our first one ever has asked to rematch and moved away, and now I had to quickly pivot, and my days are very short compared to what I'm used to, and trying to fit a lot in and then be a peaceful CEO level mom when my kids are home. But I'm probably more of a janitor, let's be honest. But I was talking to some coaches the other day, and they were like, number one, grace. You need to give yourself the grace for this situation. And then pivot to I get to, instead of looking back. So like I still get to work 5 hours a day. I
Yeah.
get to spend the afternoon with my kids.
Yeah.
You know, just like pivoting it to the I get. So it's happening for me, not to me. Also remembering that it is a season and it's not
There's so much power in that when we can like recognize what season we're in. And sometimes it's like you have to really pull out, like open up the aperture, right? To say like, what's really going on here? And the question I'm constantly asking myself is like, is this how it's going to be forever? Because you already know the answer to that question. Like you will find another au pair. You've had many that have been successful for you in the past. Like you're a good match, you know, like you know how to do it well. Like it, you know, all those things are true. And so you really are solving for something that's quite temporary as opposed to a forever thing. But so often we attach our happiness to like the assumption that this is how it is right now is how it's going to feel forever, instead of doing that sort of perspective building of saying like this actually is a season. And season is a great word. The other word I use a lot is chapter. This is a chapter in my story. Like last year was a chapter in my story. It required a different energy from me. It took things from me that I didn't even know I needed to give it. Like it was a lot. This next chapter is different, and it's going to require different things from me, and it's going to have different, you know, different things that I'm going to put into it because it's a different chapter, and it's a finite, it has a finite thing. It has a starting point and an ending point.
That perspective is hard in the moment, and
Yes.
of stepping back and looking. So August, my oldest, was colic, and I thought I was going to die. I thought this was going to be forever, and I was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, give me the meds. I'm fucked. June, my third baby, was colic. It sucked. And I knew it didn't last forever because August was in the front room playing and laughing and like
right.
going to the bathroom on the toilet. And it's so hard in those moments to not think, oh, this is forever. This is happening forever. And
it's a lot of work.
Other moms and telling them when they're like, oh, my kid won't stop sleeping in my bed, or my kid's doing this stupid, annoying habit, or this is happening. I'm like, well, your kid won't do that when they're in college. So it's not forever. As forever, if it feels right now, it is not forever. And that's a hard perspective, but please put that in your toolkit, ladies and four gentlemen.
Right.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up, because Kristen, you've mentioned now a couple times you have had coaches, and I know that Cheryl's had some coaches, and now I have 2 coaches now, and I think that's something, you know, Cheryl and I are moving into this realm ourselves, and we'll be doing some coaching soon later this year. And I think that this is something that is a newer thing, maybe not new. I think a lot of high level executives typically have had coaches in the past, but I think this is a newer thing for the regular old person that's coming into play. But talk to me about like how that has improved your either life or your business, or like why did you seek one out? Like what did that, like how did that come to play?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it's, to use Cheryl's language, like a tool in your toolkit. I think no matter who you are, you probably can benefit in some way, shape, or form from some form of coaching, whether that's like super informal, like a friend who's just a little bit further along on the journey than you, like parents of an older kid, perhaps, or, works out really regularly and eats healthy. And so you just want to like kind of come alongside them and be like, tell me tell me how you do that, right? Like getting some perspective. For me, I've had a couple of different like coaching or coaching like objects, whether that was like small group sessions or trainings or things that I've gotten to be a part of with part of my company, and some of the things that are provided. Like we have a program with Harvard Business School where we have the opportunity to go and be taught. That's how I know Tom DeLong, who I mentioned earlier. Like there's just some really incredible gifts that I've experienced from that standpoint. But I've also hired coaches on my own or asked for my company to pay for them, that sort of thing. And I have found coaching to be an incredible tool, I think, for a couple of reasons. But the thing that resonates with me the most right now, I have a coach who is a former CEO of another company in my holding company. And so she's got like direct understanding of what it's like to do my job. And we have sort of a philosophical connection. Like we just are from an ethos standpoint, we're just like similar, right? The way we would talk, the way we would tell stories, like the energy that we bring to things is similar. And that's really important because I think it sometimes, coaching is still personal. You have to have someone that you really vibe with, because if I was working with a coach who was like super methodical, super into like running your company by the numbers, like those types of things, that wouldn't be the right fit for me, because it would be such a violation to who I am as a human, right? Like the things that matter to me, my personality, how I do stuff. And so the coach that I'm working with right now has been such a gift for me, because she brings so much perspective. So she is the person that's saying like, this doesn't last this way forever. She's also a really good sounding board where I can be super messy. Right? Like there's some questions as CEO of the company that I have to answer, and I in flight don't know the answer to every single one of those questions. So to have a person who's not judging me, who is truly hired to be for me, right? Like that's the ultimate definition of someone that is in your corner, sending you back into the arena. Like she's like pumping me full of like water and nutrients and like, rubbing my shoulders. And she's like, say it. What if you said it this way? What if we tried this, or sharpen this point of view, or whatever it might be? And then like tapping me on the butt and sending me back in the ring. Like that's what it feels like. And it's life-giving from that standpoint. And for me in this season, it is truly life-giving. Like I can't begin to describe some of the things that I've picked up that were just, free of charge, like just a phrasing of how something you might word something, or a concept that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about. Or one of my favorite things that my coach said to me when I met with her 2 weeks ago, she was like, there's this book, it's called this. She said, don't read it. You don't have time to read it right now. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. It's these three things. And that was such a gift, right? For someone to just validate that where you are right now is a lot. And you don't need to do more. You don't need anything more on your to-do list. Like she's not handing out massive homework assignments, that sort of thing. She's there to be a sounding board, a help, and truly that true definition of a coach. If you think about it, like, Ted Lasso, I'm a huge fan, right? Like that person that's like, yeah, forget that. Let it go, right? Like, let it go. That was dumb. Let it go. Be a goldfish, whatever. Like just giving you like, yeah, I'll stop.
And then sometimes the definition of a coach, sometimes they want you to figure it out. And sometimes you need your coach to just tell you what the fuck to do.
Give you the fucking easy button.
So true. So true.
Coach by definition is
that.
like,
here's the answer.
Do this play, right? They write up the play for you. And I sometimes and that's the coach that I'm having now. Like that when we talked about when we met, I was like, I need the easy button. You're doing a lot of what I want to do, and you're, 10 years older and years ahead. Like, and so she said to me, she's like, I can do half coaching, half consulting for you. And I was like, great, that's what I need. That's what I
Yeah.
and being clear
Right.
about
Like someone that's like, here's the next step. Here's the next step. Because we get so overwhelmed. And particularly when you're like high functioning, that's not the right way to say that. That's rude. When you are very capable
yeah,
and smart, you know all the things that you should do. The issue
right,
is not like knowing what you should do. The issue is the order in which to do them, the energy that will require,
yeah,
the mechanics of like figuring out the day to day and how to fit it all in. It's that, and so you need, that's where that outside perspective is so invaluable, that someone's like, okay, well, what if you did it at the same time that you did this, or what if you actually didn't do these 3 other things, you just started with this one, or whatever it is. And that sometimes even having a coach gives you permission to like do it slower or differently than you even imagined,
yeah, or be
which
messy,
actually
like you
just
said.
provides some focus, and if that, and half the battle is just feeling okay about it.
Yeah, I feel like we have a billion things to talk to you about, and we're gonna have you on again. But I know we want to be mindful of your time because you're a busy lady and you have a lot going on. And we're so thankful that found a time to chat with us, because I think what you have to offer everybody is so invaluable, and you're just like such an awesome person.
I have to cut in real quick because this is going to be the part of the podcast where Rachel Metzger, my business partner and excellent friend, will be like, why don't you guys just go longer? She keeps telling me that our podcast needs to be longer. So Rachel, I'm sorry, but Kristen has another meeting and
I
She's a
figured it was
prepare
CEO.
for
it's
my
She's
my
next.
got a
fault.
meeting.
It's my fault. I'm so sorry. But I did, there was one concept that we didn't get to talk about that's been on my mind so much. So if I can just say one more thing before we like wrap up. My husband, who, as I mentioned, is a darling, wonderful human, he had sort of a revelation last week about me and my career, because we've been in this space of like, it feels so hard. I can't tell you how many kitchen breakdowns I've had over the past year where I've said things like, I don't know what it is I need, but I don't have it. Like, and if you ask me to jump, the answer is not even how high. It's like, I can't, like, there's nothing. I was just adrenal fatigue, stress, all this stuff. But if I think about where I want to go, and if I think about where I want to be, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it might be, when I think about how I'll feel when I get on the other side of this mountain and our company is like thriving and growing and winning awards and being amazing and everyone loves working there and all that stuff, I will be so grateful for this season. And so he had this pivot where he kind of came into my office and was like, what if we stopped wishing it for it to go away? What if we were just thankful? What if it was like, gosh, I just need a break. I need a minute. I just need something off my plate. I just need like this onslaught of things like to die down for a second. What if instead it was like this hard pivot towards like, bring it, because I'm going to be I'm so grateful. This is serving a purpose for me and my growth in my life and my potential and all my dreams. Like if I don't go through this season, I don't get to the next one. And that has been so, and I mentioned to you, if you had talked to me 3 months ago, we wouldn't have been smiling so much. It would have been a very different conversation. Where I am now, though, it's so different because of that pivot of like, no, I am so grateful for this time. And I think that applies to so much of all of our daily lives. It's like, whatever the stuff is what we're in this moment, we have within our gift, within our control, within our power to say, this is not happening to me. I am not a victim of these circumstances. I am engaging in this. I'm leaning into some of this stuff that is hard and complex and dirty, because I believe that what's on the other side of it is something that is stronger, better,
and worth it.
Thinner,
Worth
whatever the goal is, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well,
first
amazing.
of all,
our thoughts are so powerful.
Yeah. First of all, so rude for him to come in here with that and just drop knowledge on us. Like, what is he even thinking? And also, he's amazing. And like we talked about this in one of our last episodes, but like choosing the right partner is really, really important in someone's own entrepreneurial journey or business journey or whatever. Like, you didn't do that by accident. Like you were very intentional about who you chose and how that worked and the hard work. And you talked about it, like the hard work that it took to get to where you guys are. And I think Cheryl's talked about that, about her husband and the work that they've put in, and same with David and I, like, and I think that is something that we all want to be strong women and do it all by ourselves. And we do a shit ton by ourselves. Right. But
right.
we've also very intentionally chosen partners to help lift us up in those moments or give us those perspectives, or even just listen to me when I cry in the middle of his work day. And he's like, I'm so sorry. There is someone here in my office now, but, you know,
but you're going to be great. I love you. Go get him, babe.
It's great. Just call him, see if it was a mistake. That's fine. But I just like, I think that is a conversation that we just need to continue to have, because we don't have to do it on our own. And having a really great, strong, awesome partner doesn't make us less of badass ladies. And I think sometimes
it's iron sharpening iron, right? Like it's how you both thrive. And when you have careers and you want to be successful and you want to support your family well together, you have to do it together, which again, that could be, like you said, a whole other conversation. It's not just like, oh, I need you to do the laundry. It's like, we've got to share the load. Right. And that requires so much communication and honesty and feedback and all uncomfortable things too. Right. And that's a huge part of the story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll come back, right?
Yeah.
I sure will. Happy to.
Where can people find you if they want more of you? Are you anywhere? What do you do?
What do you want to share with us? What do you want to tell us? What do you want to give the people?
I'm a happy follow on Instagram, but private, but would accept people to follow me. But more than that, I'm on LinkedIn, although not a lot there either. Actually, I think what you're helping me understand is the next phase for my life and career is like, what am I putting out there? It's a good question, Cheryl. So stay tuned, I guess. I'll get back to you, but would love to connect with more people and like-minded people. So I'm a happy follow on Instagram for sure.
Amazing.
I think we have our next Inspire Her collective starting wherever Kristen lives. So she can connect with like-minded people.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We love you.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. It's such a gift that you're giving to women and men, whoever. It's such an important, so many important conversations that you're leading. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. And thanks for what you're putting out into the world.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I love you guys so much.
Bye. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.